started, I have a BBC News article, and anyone in the crypto space knows in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, what's been going on with China. This article is not new news at all, but I just wanted to point out one thing is the article is about China shutting down the Bitcoin exchanges. The main thing I wanted to point out is Paul Armstrong, who's a emerging technology advisor. He was quoted in this article talking about the shutdown, and he says they're shutting it down for now, but it doesn't mean that in 6 months or so they won't create new Bitcoin regulations like Japan and Australia did. All of the other countries have digital currencies and are making important decisions about it, so it doesn't make sense for China to dismiss it out of hand. He added that China's decision could prompt Chinese investors to seek alternative options, such as moving out of the country and operating exchanges of Bitcoin in other regions. So what I'm doing with all these articles, I want to use them to paint a larger picture of what's going on, why these things are happening, and what will happen. Originally, we thought China was banning just the local exchanges and that the over-the-counter trading was still going to be taking place. But apparently this most recent report, which the Wall Street Journal supposedly has done, China will be also cracking down and shutting down all the over-the-counter trading. And it says here in the article that will also include not allowing the Chinese to purchase on online exchanges like Coinbase in the US by the Great Firewall, it says. So the interesting thing here is, this is another twist for the negative, you might think, but we're seeing that the market has responded pretty positively. It's stabilized, and a lot of this nonsense is not affecting investors, which is, I think, is a great sign of strength. So what's happening with China cracking down is that people are leaving China. Investors and cryptocurrency businesses they're leaving. If they can't do what they want to do in China and the government is not allowing that, they say, okay, we'll do it elsewhere. We'll do it where the law allows us to. So Hong Kong has a different legal system than the communist government in China. Even though Hong Kong is technically located in China, they're free of, for the most part, it's a little tricky situation, but for the most part, they're free of the communist government's rules. So a lot of these investors and businesses are moving to Hong Kong, and it's acting as a sort of a safe haven. And this is just another article on CNBC about there's a major Bitcoin conference that takes place, and it was scheduled for China, obviously because of what's going on there. It was postponed and it was supposedly going to be canceled, but it has been now moved to Hong Kong again. And that's what's happening. They're finding a way around it. So this is an article, a good old Cointelegraph. And again, it's saying what I had just stated. People are leaving. It's a mass exodus right now of these people that are leaving China. And again, Hong Kong is one of the winners, as we'll find out later. There's a huge country where people are fleeing to for this. Hong Kong is definitely, because of its proximity, is definitely a winner right now, is where businesses and investors. So the other one is Japan. 50.75% market share of the global Bitcoin exchange market. They have become the number one country for cryptocurrency. It's very interesting. We'll see if this continues in the future, as this stuff continues to garner more attention and more, is more powerful and shows more strength. We'll see if Japan continues to do what they're doing, but very good sign for the future that they are supporting and allowing these Chinese investors and businesses to come in. So that's sort of the state of China and what's happening. And I wanted to touch briefly on two other countries and sort of what's going on in these countries relating to cryptocurrency and in the case of Venezuela, specifically Bitcoin. So I'm just going to play very briefly. I won't play the whole thing, but just so you have an idea. I mean, this is nuts to me.
Currencies like Bitcoin have long been seen as a risky investment. But in Venezuela, you can end up behind bars for dealing in it. These 5 people, along with thousands of others across Venezuela, are secretly mining Bitcoin just to make ends meet. Some names have been changed to protect their identities. because in this country, dealing in Bitcoin is a very dangerous game, but also a vital lifeline for survival. Venezuela was once the richest country in South America, but now it's a country in crisis. It has the highest inflation rate in the world, and its currency is in freefall. Food and basic necessities are scarce. People are rationing toothpaste and toilet paper. There's even reports of hungry Venezuelans killing flamingos and anteaters for food. The IMF reported prices in Venezuela rose 470% last year and projects more than 1,100% for this year.
Against this backdrop, cash-strapped locals have been turning to mining cryptocurrency just to get by. In the cryptocurrency world, mining is essentially bookkeeping for digital transactions. When someone mines, they earn digital currency as a payment for their efforts.
It's been a lifeline for people like this man, who goes by the nickname Brother. He initially got into mining because his $43 a month government job wasn't enough to support the baby girl he and his wife had on the way. The 29-year-old started mining by secretly using computers in his government office, and only agreed to talk to CNBC under anonymity.
Por ella, o sea, por la niña no pensé que fuese como un riesgo de qué me puede pasar dentro de la empresa, sino más bien debo tomar el riesgo por ella. Debo hacerlo por ella.
Brother's story is a familiar one. David Fernando Lopez has since fled Venezuela, but he once ran a Bitcoin mining farm. He was 40 years old and didn't have a job. Mining was the one thing that could take him out of poverty.
You have to feed a family with one either bread. This is like, and people are doing it. Yes, a lot of people, a lot.
Andrea Perez works 3 jobs, yet mining Bitcoin represents roughly 80% of her income.
For me, Bitcoin has represented the ability to be able.
I'll stop it there. The gist of that video, as you can see, Venezuela, as we know, is in a state of absolute despair right now. Their currency, the fiat currency, is basically worthless. There's such hyperinflation going on. People don't even know what to do. So they're turning to cryptocurrencies just to survive. And the government, as a result, they're attempting to basically ban every activity relating to cryptocurrency possible. If I would have played the video, you'll see at the end, I'll put all these articles as links in the description of my video so you can watch it in its entirety. But basically they're literally arresting people and throwing them in jail if they're caught with any sort of rig or possession of Bitcoin. I mean, it's insane. They're so afraid of cryptocurrency as a threat to the bolivar, which is their currency, that they're jailing people. That's how their government is dealing with it. I wanted to also touch on India real quickly. So far we've seen how China is currently dealing with cryptocurrency. We don't know their long-term motive. And we're seeing how Venezuela, who is failing miserably and getting worse every day, we see how they're dealing with it. India is trying to be a little proactive here and has thought about having a central bank-backed cryptocurrency, or a crypto rupee. And they've talked about this for a while. The U.S. government even threw out something called the Fed coin, I believe. Sort of laughable, these ideas. I wouldn't put it past any of the governments to do it, but the whole point of cryptocurrency that is decentralized. It cannot be centralized. So it's possible some of these governments might, if they're not thinking through the process, may totally try to ban cryptocurrency on the free market as we know it and create their own digital currencies and basically force people to use that just like they force people to use the fiat. That is possible. But this article here, and when I say it's possible, we all know that there's no way to stop people from using cryptocurrencies. There's many ways around it. There's currencies like Monero that 100% untraceable. There's browsers, the Tor, the Onion browser. We know they can't stop it, but I'm saying they may attempt to stop it by doing just that, creating their own digital currency. But this article here is just sort of talking about how maybe it's not a great idea. Surprise, surprise, for India to create their own centralized coin, basically. So it's a pretty interesting read. You can go ahead and check that one out. And then one thing I wanted to really touch on that I don't think is getting enough attention right now, as we sort of look, the next few months I think are going to be very important in the crypto world. And one of the things people, at least I don't think, are talking enough about is a meeting on October 18th in China for its Communist Party. And basically it's meeting, let's see how many years they do here, every 5 years, to basically reshuffle the Communist Party. And there's one of the main talking points is obviously going to be cryptocurrency and how to deal with this. It's obviously a hot topic right now. Money, capital outflow is possibly, I'd have to say, probably the number one talking point for China. Their currency is losing value, and as a result, people are just flooding money out of China. They're getting it out as quick as they can, which is obviously devaluing it even more. So as they see cryptocurrency as a threat, they know the potential it has. There's no doubt. They've been at the forefront in investing in mining rigs, investing in blockchain technology. They know it's the future. They just don't know how to deal with it, in my opinion, at this current time. So this meeting here will be unbelievably important going forward, obviously in China, but I think it'll also set a precedent for some other countries and what their governments may decide to do with cryptocurrency. So we'll have to keep an eye out. October 18th, very important. I want to just take a second. That was a lot of information there, a lot of articles, and I want to leave, as I always will on this channel, with sort of the bigger picture here. What's happening right now is cryptocurrencies are slowly gaining more mainstream. The news, whether it's bad, a lot of us call it fake news, whether it's good or bad publicity, it's getting out there, and a lot of people are hearing about it, much more than, say, even 6 months ago. And as it's gaining more and more traction, these governments, they're starting to take notice, and they're starting to think, this could really be a threat to our central banks, to our fiat currency, to our economy right now as it's set up. And they are really, really thinking here, because if they don't embrace it, it's a sort of a tsunami, a tidal wave that's coming towards them. And if they don't embrace it and try to regulate it in a certain way that they can sort of adopt it and work with it, they may be left in the dust. The tidal wave might hit them, and that might be it. And cryptos may leave them in the dust. However, if they decide to totally ban it and take that route, I think it would hurt the cryptocurrency community in the short term. There's no doubt. People want to be on the right side of the law, so as do I. So the use of cryptocurrencies would definitely be hit if this is what China decides and what future governments decide to try to just outlaw it. But then I think the community will still be there, and it will slowly start building back up again. And I just don't see that as a viable long-term solution for governments. There's so many reasons why that won't work. So many reasons. You can't stop. This is something that is unstoppable. So how do you deal with it? In my opinion, the only way is to find a way to regulate it. It does need some regulation. There's a lot of scams. And work with it and find a way to benefit the people in the country. And one example I wanted to give real quick, a lot of people in the crypto community are not huge supporters of Ripple because it's supposedly one of the more centralized coins out there. If you actually look at their white paper and their plans for the future, they're really not that centralized. I don't want to get into all that, but I understand why a lot of people don't support Ripple and crypto. But let's just forget about the centralization versus decentralization of Ripple and think about their technology. If you compare it to what banks are currently using, which is SWIFT technology for transactions, If you do a side by side, Ripple is so obviously superior. It's like comparing apples and oranges. It's not even close. And banks know that. I mean, Ripple's now, I think, I haven't checked recently, there's over 100 partnerships they have with banks, but the technology is not being mass adopted like it should be. And if you think about it for a second, why is that? Ripple would save banks millions, potentially billions of dollars globally in the banking system. Why would they not all be running to use Ripple? Well, it's the same reason that these governments, they don't know what to do with crypto. Central banks are afraid that they would be further opening Pandora's box if they start mass adopting Ripple. So it's a very interesting game of chess that's going on right now. They see the technology, they understand that it's the future, like I said, but they just don't know how to deal with it quite yet. And it'll be very interesting here in the next 1 to 2 years to see exactly what's going on. But Ripple is, in my opinion, a perfect example. I just wanted to leave you with something. I got a notification on my phone the other night when I got home, and it literally made me laugh. Wall Street Journal has had some sensationalist articles recently about just ripping Bitcoin. And this one, I think, tops them all. So I wanted to leave you with this. The title is "Bitcoin's Wild Ride Shows the Truth. It is probably worth zero." This genius here, James McIntosh, just a brilliant mind, he says here, so is a single Bitcoin worth $500,000, $5,500, or $0? First of all, James, the current value of a Bitcoin is, you can look at the current value. It's just under 4,000 right now. Anyway, he says, I'm inclined to say $0. $0. What's that? It's not even worth my time to respond to that article. That's it for today's news and thoughts. If you could be so kind to hit that like or subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video.